What do you do when life as you know it changes? What do you do in a crisis? And who are the people that we remember during a crisis? Or are we just focused on how to make sure we stay preserved and continue to live? Hello, welcome back to my channel, Theater from My View. I am Amanda Washington, and today we are talking about Mother Hicks by Suzan Zeder. But before we get into it, a few things. One, I post a new video every Friday at noon. So two, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel because three, next Friday's coming quick, fast, and boom, in a hurry, and you don't want to miss it. All right, are you ready? Let's get into it. Mother Hicks is the story of an orphan who is called Girl, a deaf man named Tuck, and a woman named Mother Hicks, who the town presumes is a witch. The story is a trilogy that takes place during the Great Depression about life in that time, especially for people who are outcast of an already small town and how they navigate through that time period, especially when a worldwide crisis is happening. It's a great reflection on how we treat people when a major life crisis, like a pandemic, happens. How do we survive? Who do we focus on? What do we give our focus to? And are we still the nurturing and loving people that we claim to be? So like I said, who gets ignored in a crisis? Let's start off with the people who are disabled or who we assume are disabled just because we don't see what they're dealing with or what they have as an advantage in life. The story brings up or has the character Tuck in it, and Tuck is deaf and mute. I was doing research on life during the Great Depression and what was it like for the disabled people. And I found something that I want to read to you all that is very interesting. Featuring my laptop, here goes. This is the rehabilitation of the mentally and physically handicapped. It was an address by New York Governor Franklin D. Roosevelt, and it took place on July 13th, 1929. He states, "The instruction of these deaf people is working wonders." He has been speaking earlier about how he's visited deaf schools and how they've been taught how to read lips and sign to people in order to communicate to the world. The instruction of these deaf people is working wonders. Girls and boys are being taught to read lips and to make themselves understood sufficiently to make their own way in the world. It is an interesting fact that there is ready employment for all graduates of our deaf schools. Next, we come to the problem of cripples. A generation ago, the crippled had no chance. Today, through the fine strides of modern medical science, the great majority of crippled children are enabled, even though the process may take years to get about and in many cases find complete or practically complete cures. In other words, that large part of humanity which used to be pushed to one side or discarded is now salvaged and enabled to play its own part in the life of the community. So these are all good things, right? It's 1929. The disability community or people who are differently abled are making strides to have a better life. Let's hear this last part of his address. It is a task that appeals to our humanity, meaning the strides that we've already made, we need to continue them. And when I say we've already made, meaning in 1929, but it is a task that appeals also to our future economic success. Every citizen, man, woman, or child who is unable to take his or her part in the normal life of modern civilization is a drag on our economic life. Good humanity and good economics demand that the work must go on. So how I took this speech is that he is saying we have made strides. We have to keep going. And it's not just one group, but all of the groups have to contribute to this. And 1929, like I said, that took place on July 13th, 1929. And Black Tuesday, i.e. the stock market crashing, i.e. the beginning to the Great Depression, happened on October 29th, 1929. I have one other thing I also want to read to you. This article is called Pioneers in the Fight for Disability Rights, the League of the Physically Handicapped by Keith Rosenthal. I pulled out sections of this article, but I'll explain after I read to it more on it. I just want you to listen. It goes without saying that the Great Depression that began in 1929 had a devastating impact on the lives of all American workers, with official unemployment rates skyrocketing to 25%. But for disabled people, the economic crisis hit even harder. One study found that 44% of deaf workers who had been employed prior to the crash had lost their jobs by 1935. The overall unemployment rate for disabled people was probably upwards of 80%, translating into crushing levels of poverty. And that's only 7 years after President, or then Governor Roosevelt, now President Roosevelt, made his speech. But there's more. As a consequences of all this turmoil and struggle, the administration of Franklin Roosevelt had begun implementation of its New Deal program in the mid-1930s. A centerpiece of the New Deal was the creation of millions of federal jobs through the Works Progress Administration, or WPA, inaugurated in January of 1935. Yay, great. People are going to be able to have some type of income, some type of livelihood. Great, loving it. Yet, even the WPA, as important a victory as it was for the working class, proved to be woefully limited in its scope. Among other flaws, state and federal WPA regulations bar disabled job seekers from enjoying any of the program's benefits, categorizing such individuals as unemployable. But didn't President Roosevelt, or then governor, say that upon graduation, these deaf students would be able to be employed? Didn't he just say that? All right. WPA's advertisement underlined this point by explicitly stating that only able-bodied American job seekers need apply. And I just want to bring this full circle if you haven't gotten it yet. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was himself a handicapped person. He suffered from polio, which left him with paralysis. And he has polio at this time. It wasn't something that he got super duper later on after his presidency. No, he had it at this time when he was making the WPA and all of the New Deal jobs, or the alphabet soup, as some of us learned about it in high school. And to say that only able-bodied Americans need apply, that is perpetuating the idea that these citizens that 7 years ago you boosted up saying they're amazing and we need to keep pushing forward don't matter. And that gives the permission for other people to treat them as if they don't matter. All right, Amanda, this is not a political talk show. What are you trying to get at? Mother Hicks shines beautiful light on the fact that we can't forget about the people who we are initially fighting for, even when a crisis happens. It may be tough, but we have to keep pushing. We have to still treat others the way we want to be treated, and we have to still make sure that we are not individualistic in our thought, because this is not just only happening to us. This is happening to all of us at the same time. Just because bad things happen doesn't mean the torch dies out. I think with the actions that were done during the Great Depression, and this is not me speaking, saying that everything President Roosevelt did was terrible. No, that's not me saying that. What I am saying is that wording that the WPA had in the job description gave permission for other people to treat people with disabilities in a derogatory way. In the script, Mother Hicks They make fun of Tuck, and they're actually nervous and scared of Tuck because they don't understand where he's coming from. And like I said, Mother Hicks does a great job with giving a voice to those who we don't necessarily understand right off the bat because they're not normal. I find this very interesting up against girl who is an orphan, and there's nothing quote unquote wrong with her. She's just been abandoned ever since she was a baby. And the town takes it upon themselves to pass her from family to family, since one, girl doesn't want to go to the state home, and two, girl doesn't have a family for her own. It's very interesting how people say it takes a village to raise a child, but you don't want to also use that same village to come to learn and understand and accept the person with a disability named Tuck. And let me not be too harsh, because in the show, Tuck gets a job at the grocery, packing groceries that need to be delivered. But I saw no true effort to understand him, other than from the character Mother Hicks. All right, on to another topic. During this time, since families couldn't care for their children, they dropped them off at state homes or orphanages. And I guess it's because those places were getting funded. But it just makes you reflect about what do you do in a crisis, and should you prepare for a crisis? Who gets forgotten and who gets pushed along with you in this journey of a crisis? Girl is one of those people who got tucked under the town's wing so she could be propelled with them no matter what was going to happen during this crisis. But I also find it interesting that she's still trying to pave her own way. She goes out into the forest at one moment in the script and does the ritual to become a witch. And actually she ends up catching a severe case of pneumonia, and Mother Hicks, who is cast out by the town, comes and saves her. Mother Hicks is a really interesting woman because the town is filled with superstition about the woman. And this in the script really made me question, do we automatically assume bad intent when we don't know about somebody? Or we're only able to observe them from a distance and never close up or ever able to have an interaction with them? I think gossip got the best of the townspeople, and they let their imaginations run wild, and they ended up turning gossip into what they thought was fact. Because from the script, Mother Hicks is this lovely woman. When you read about her in the script, she may seem odd because she takes care of wild animals, but she also heals girl when she gets that bad case of pneumonia. She helps Tuck out when people in town are being rude to him. And so I don't understand what about that you might find witch-like. She did visit her daughter at her grave in the dead of night. Some people may find that witchy. Maybe that's the only time she had free during her day. But it's just so interesting. How do you start to treat people when a crisis happens? I wonder if they treated Mother Hicks like that before the Great Depression struck, or before they had so much time on their hands. Would they have even given this woman a second thought if she was visiting her child at night, because she could have been coming home late from work? It's just such a great script, and I would love to direct it one day. But yes, let me know in the comments below, what do you do in a crisis? Who do you think you leave behind? That might be too much of a personal question. If it is, that's okay. But what are your natural go-tos? Who do you check for first in a crisis? That's an even better question. Who are you checking on right now? That is it for me. I will see you all next Friday. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.